so painful. She did not regret it. Gripping his muscular back, she bit her lip and closed her eyes in resignation. It had been a long night. The sky slowly brightened. She sat up in bed and began to dress. She looked at the man beside her, who was sleeping soundly. He even had an arrogant look on his sleeping face. She took a deep breath, scenting drunkenness in the air. She lifted her hand and stroked her lips. There was still some warmth remaining from his kiss. She no longer yearned for him. Before he woke up, she had to leave, or the consequences would be dire. She had seduced him at the dinner party, lured him into this hotel room, and if he came to his senses, she had no idea what he would do to her. She tied up her long hair as quickly as she could, put on her high-heeled shoes, and walked hastily out of the hotel building. She picked up her cell phone and dialed a number. "Sister, I did it. Promise me that you will hold on until the end of the day and not do anything silly." A soft cry came from the other side.
"Erica, why are you so reckless?"
"Because I want you to live. You're the only family I have left." Erica Thompson hung up the phone and called a taxi. The moment she sat down, she winced. It was strong stuff, but the alcohol hadn't worn him down. It was a soft bed, but he'd almost broken her. Erica shook her head to banish all the images of their passion. "Don't think about it. You don't love him. You just want his children." Erica lightly placed her hands on her abdomen, hoping she'd succeeded in her mission. "Please, take me to the airport," she said to the taxi driver. Afternoon. Jeff Nolan called for his secretary and barked an angry command. "Find out who took me to the hotel last night." The secretary returned after a while and handed him a screenshot of the surveillance footage. Jeff held the printout tightly. It clearly showed the picture of a petite girl. She wore a black dress that didn't hide her slim waist. She was trying hard to help Jeff out of the elevator. He stumbled drunkenly. Jeff gritted his teeth and said, "We have to find her, even if it costs me my life."
"Mr. Nolan, what does she do?"
Jeff narrowed his eyes, which were filled with killing intent. The secretary did not dare to ask any further questions and walked out with her head lowered. What had she done? She had seduced him when he was most vulnerable. He had not followed her to bed out of his own free will. She had tempted him. She had run rings around him. She had driven him insane. No one could take advantage of Jeff Nolan. No one. He sat in his swivel chair and looked out the window into New York City. The Adams Group building was the tallest building in all of New York. From here, Jeff could clearly see the entire city laid out. Jeff's eyes darkened. He had remembered the red stains upon the sheets. That night, the girl had become a woman. She had not seduced him for a better position in life. She hadn't asked him for anything. She'd walked away empty-handed. She'd seemed so pure, but she hadn't hesitated to throw herself at him like any old tart. What exactly was she plotting? 2 months later, Paris. When Erica Thompson walked out of the hospital, she couldn't help but smile. She couldn't help glancing at the report again, her fingers touching the tiny bud on the picture. Right now, she needed to continue living in seclusion, avoiding everyone she formerly knew, so she could take care of the life inside her in peace. One quiet afternoon, Erica had just returned home from the grocery store. With great difficulty, she forced herself to walk up the stairs, holding on to her 9-month-old baby bump. Suddenly, she felt a pain in her stomach, followed by a slight warmth on her legs, as if a liquid was spreading downwards. She looked down and saw that her canvas shoes were soaked. Her waters had broken. She panicked, and the food in the paper bag spilled onto the floor. Erica Thompson was carrying Jeff Nolan's baby. Now her waters had broken. With the last of her strength, she called for a taxi to the hospital and was carried by the nurses to the maternity ward. All the other pregnant women were occupied by their families, but she was alone and helpless. She hugged her belly and grit her teeth as she endured wave after wave of prenatal pain. The nurses surrounded her, blotting out the pale light. They tried to soothe her. "Don't be so nervous. Relax. The more nervous you are, the more painful it will be. You'll soon be a mother." Erica nodded weakly. Her forehead was covered in sweat. Suddenly remembering something, she grabbed the hand of the nearest nurse and said, "When this will be done, please take... No, save the child's umbilical cord. You must preserve it." The nurse wiped the sweat from Erica's forehead. "I know. The doctor specifically told us that you need the blood from your umbilical cord. Don't worry, we'll take care of it." Erica let go of the nurse. She only vaguely saw the blinding light above her head. After her baby was born, her sister would be saved, and all her problems would be solved. Her sister had suffered too long. "Sister, you have to hold on." Erica screamed at the top of her lungs. The baby in her womb couldn't wait to see the world. 6 hours passed. Erica felt as if all her energy had been sucked up out of her. Just as she was about to give up, the crisp cry of an infant echoed around her. Her body relaxed, and her eyes welled up with tears of excitement. The doctor brought the child to her. She looked at his wrinkled little face and listened to his powerful sobs. She thought he was the most beautiful little angel in the world. Erica's expression was of complete happiness. Looking at the sleeping baby in her arms, she realized that all the suffering she had gone through in the past year was nothing. The child pouted. He was so cute. Erica kissed the baby's nose. Suddenly, she remembered Jeff Nolan's face. The child looked too much like Jeff. If anyone who knew Jeff saw this kid, they would be able to tell they were related. She didn't want Jeff to know about the child's existence. The child was hers. Jeff had no right over him. Jeff had only done one thing. After that, it had been all her. She was the one who'd gotten pregnant. She was the one who'd given birth. She had suffered alone. She wouldn't let him snatch the child away. In the hospital director's office, a secretary with rimless glasses placed a screenshot from the surveillance video on the director's desk. The director looked at the woman in the picture and nodded. "It's her. The name she wrote on the admission registration was Erica Thompson." "Is she expecting a boy or a girl?" the secretary asked in fluent French. "A boy." The secretary pushed her glasses up, tapped a few times on her tablet, and said, "The Atoms Group just donated 20 million euros to your hospital. You have to promise that you will treat Erica well. Don't give her any supplements or anything. Just say that these are your hospital's free benefits." The director was overjoyed. "Thank you, Mr. Nolan, for your generosity, and you, Miss Wilson. I promise I will take good care of Miss Thompson. I will arrange for 2 more private nurses for her." The secretary calmly took her leave. She made a phone call, then hung up the phone and held it in her hand. Then she walked into another ward and pushed the door open without a word. Erica was about to feed her child when she was startled. "Who are you?" Erica tugged at her collar and closed her dress. She looked at the intruder warily. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I walked into the wrong ward. I'm really sorry." The secretary turned and left, shutting the door softly behind her. Then she turned off the recording function on her cell phone and clicked on the button to transmit the video. Jeff Nolan's phone vibrated during a meeting. His secretary had sent him a video. He clicked on the file. An elegant woman was lying in a hospital bed, holding a plump, pink baby in her arms. A sharp light flashed across Jeff's eyes. "I finally found you," he thought. She'd been cunning. This girl could really hide. But no matter how well she hid, she couldn't escape from his grasp. He could not help but watch the video again. The little baby in the woman's arms looked extremely similar to him, almost as if they were cast from the same mold. His lips quirked. This little fellow was obviously his child. "Director Nolan?" His staff had called his name several times. Jeff came back to his senses and suddenly said in a friendly tone, "Let's take a break first. To celebrate our performance, let's give all of our employees a free lunch." The staff was all wild with joy. At the same time, everyone was puzzled. This month's performance was clearly lower than last month's. Was this worth celebrating? It wasn't common for their draconian director to smile. Something good must have happened to him. The next day, Jeff rushed to Paris. When he arrived, it was already 9 in the evening. As soon as he landed, he hired an expensive car from a private garage and headed for the hospital where the mother and son were. Erica Thompson. Her name was Erica Thompson. Very good. He wanted to give Erica a huge surprise. He didn't care if his appearance was a shock to her. For an entire year, she had done everything she could to keep him at a distance. He had to catch her and learn the truth. Why had she given birth to his child for no reason at all? Before that night, he hadn't even known Erica existed. Jeff stopped at a red light. Today, the traffic was light and he was the only car around. The hospital was so close. He just had to cross the road and he'd be there. When the green light came on, he started his car. Without warning, an enormous truck careened around the intersection and crashed into his sports car. 4 years had passed. At this moment, the sunlight was shining through a window onto a woman's body. Golden rays of light outlined her graceful figure. Her skin was fair, her eyelashes were long, and her bright eyes were focused as she drew a draft of a design. It was Erica. In the past 4 years, Erica had experienced many hardships. Because she had to take care of her children, she was forced to graduate from the Paris Institute of Design. She'd abandoned her studies and her dream of becoming a designer. She had no French relatives, and soon was forced to return home with her 1-year-old child. However, as soon as she returned home, her adoptive parents used her unmarried pregnancy as an excuse to ruthlessly expel her from the family. Erica had to take her child with her to rent a house, and perhaps God was on her side. She soon found a place with low rent and no deposit. At that time, she was in a miserable state. Things had taken a turn for the worse. But then DX Group, the world's top luxury goods company, sent her an offer of employment, urging her to head the company's design department at a 7-figure annual salary. She was just an ordinary university student. Why would the DX Group choose her above the 1,000 other candidates? Erica thought she was dreaming. It wasn't until she started the job that she gradually understood this was reality. Erica began to work hard to further her career at the DX Group. She worked diligently, staying overtime every day just to save more money for her child, Morris Thompson. Never, ever Morris Nolan, so he could live a better life. Over the past 4 years, mother and son had lived peacefully, and Erica had been able to save a considerable amount of money. However, during these 4 years, because of Morris's existence, she had suffered a lot from discrimination. But she never regretted giving birth to him. She had already forgotten about Jeff Nolan. Of all people from her previous life, Jeff was the one she least wanted to remember. Every time she recalled his face, she felt an inexplicable fear. She was afraid that one day Jeff would come back and take her child away. However, so many years had passed and Jeff hadn't appeared. Erica couldn't help but expect her good luck to continue. Jeff had probably forgotten about that night, as well as about her. If that were the case, that would be great. She longed to be forgotten. When she thought of Morris, even when in her office, Erica became absent-minded for a moment. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise. Morris was also known as her lucky charm. Erica always called him that at home, because after Morris was born, her fortune got better and better. Her cell phone suddenly beeped, reminding her that it was time to get off work. In the past, she'd always lost track of time when working late hours. But today was Morris's 4th birthday. She'd set an alarm to remind herself to get off work on time. She packed up immediately, ran out of the building, picked up Morris's birthday cake from the bakery, and then drove home. Erica opened the apartment door and found the house exceptionally quiet. Where was her child? She had told Morris many times not to play outside after coming back from kindergarten. He had to wait at home for her to return. Erica walked into the dining room and placed the cake. The table was littered with children's watercolors and paint pots. Erica frowned. She had a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. Could it be that Morris wanted to play hide-and-seek with her today? My lucky little charm, where are you hiding? Come on out, stop teasing Mom. Do you still want to eat cake? Erica looked around the room and gradually realized that the situation was more serious than she thought. There was no sign of Morris anywhere. The child was not simply hiding. The child was gone. She became flustered, picked up her cell phone, and was about to call the police. Unexpectedly, an unfamiliar number called her instead. Staring at this unfamiliar number, Erica felt a strong sense of foreboding. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the phone. She put it to her ear. Hello? Mom! Morris! Morris, where are you? Erica shouted. Tell me! Mom will pick you up right now. Mom, don't worry. I'm with Dad. Dad? What Dad? Erica's son Morris had disappeared. Soon after, he'd called her, saying he was with his dad. Now someone else had snatched the phone. A low voice echoed in her ears. Erica Thompson, you really are a good woman. You taught our son so well. When Erica heard this voice, her vision went black and her legs wobbled. She fell to the floor. Jeff? Jeff Nolan? You still recognize me? There was a trace of mockery in his tone. Please return my child to me, she begged. He's not yours. Erica's voice was filled with fear. The Infernal King had returned. As soon as he returned, he'd stolen her most precious possession, her son. She heard Jeff snort and say, Really? Who's the father then? Tell me who he is, and I'll return the child to you. Erica burst into tears. What do you want from me? How much do you want? Money, Jeff laughed. Do you think money is important to me? She recalled that he was the CEO of the Adams Group and famous for his financial acumen. For him, making money was as easy as turning on a faucet. Then what exactly do you want? She asked. You have 20 minutes to get to the DX Group, Jeff replied. He terminated the call. Why had he asked her to go to her company headquarters? Erica looked at the time. She had no time to think. She put on her shoes, hurried downstairs, and started the car. Whenever she could, she exceeded the speed limit. But it was past 6 p.m. It was rush hour, and her car got stuck halfway in the after-work traffic. The cars ahead of her were unmoving. She gritted her teeth and got out of the car. She rushed onto the sidewalk and quickly ran toward the DX headquarters. One shoe was missing, and she didn't bother to turn around and pick it up. Instead, she took off the other shoe and threw it away. She had never run so fast in her life. Her head was buzzing and her heart was pounding fast, but she did not stop. She rushed into the DX building, which was dark. After the day's work, they switched off the lights. However, the door was open and there was no sign of security. That couldn't be a coincidence. It must have been arranged by someone. Fortunately, the elevator remained open after work. Erica ran to the elevator and pressed the button with all her might. The phone rang again. Jeff's cold voice pierced her eardrums. "It won't work. I want you to take the stairs." This building had a total of 120 floors. Was he trying to walk her to death? "You bastard!" she yelled, but before she could finish cursing, the call ended. Just as it did, the elevator door opened. Erica looked at the elevator and then at the elevator screen. The screensaver was a photo of her and Morris together. "Morris, wait for me. Mom is here to save you." Erica gritted her teeth and ran up the fire escape. By the time she reached the 30th floor, she was still persevering. But by the time she reached the 60th floor, she had overspent her strength. She feebly used both hands to climb the stairs, crawling on all fours. Her head was spinning and she was about to run out of energy. She hadn't eaten since she left work, and all the strenuous exercise had made her blood sugar level dangerously low. On the 80th floor, there were still another 40 floors to climb before she could reach the roof. However, she could no longer keep going. She fell across the stairs and fainted on the spot. Powerful footsteps echoed down the stairs, and a man descended from the 81st floor. This person knelt beside Erica and shook her. Seeing that she wasn't awake, he picked her up and carried her in his arms. This person brought her to the elevator on the 81st floor, and then traveled with her to the roof. Then the man placed her on a settee and left her. Jeff Nolan was holding Erica's son Morris hostage at the DX headquarters. Erica had fainted climbing the stairs, and an unknown man had carried her to the roof. In her half-conscious state, Erica heard the sound of high-heeled shoes approaching. She tried to open her eyes and saw a woman in rimless glasses and a white business suit standing next to her. The woman was holding a glass and filling her mouth with warm sugar water. After drinking the sweet water, Erica recovered a lot of her physical strength and regained full consciousness. She shook her head and sat up. The bespectacled woman turned and walked away, finally standing in front of a wheelchair. Erica squinted and finally made out the figure on the wheelchair. His face, buried deep in her memory, made her heart skip a beat. Jeff Nolan was sitting in the wheelchair, supporting his forehead with two slender and delicate fingers. He was staring at her in hatred. The moment their eyes met, Erica felt as if she had returned to the bed in the hotel. The heat of Jeff's body and the feeling of his fingers brushing her skin came fiercely rushing back into her mind. Erica was still short of breath and unable to speak. Even if she had been able, she wouldn't have known what to say. "Miss Wilson, please leave us alone," Jeff whispered. The bespectacled woman bowed respectfully to him and then left at a brisk pace. Looking at her retreating back, Erica finally remembered where she had seen this woman before. Just after she had given birth to Morris, a woman had broken into her hospital ward. She glanced at Erica, then quickly left. That woman was Jeff's secretary, Miss Wilson. Erica suddenly came to a realization and looked at Jeff in surprise. He had learned of Morris's existence the year his child was born. However, for some reason, he was only willing to show his face today, 4 years later. She looked at his wheelchair and felt her heart tighten. Could it be that he was disabled and unable to walk alone? When she'd seduced him, he'd been a healthy, strong man. How had he suddenly become wheelchair-bound? What had happened to him? All these years, Jeff had been almost non-existent. There had been no news. It was as if he had abruptly gone into hiding. Moreover, the entire Addams Group was also very low-key and did not make headlines in the financial world. What had Jeff gone through? As Erica speculated, Jeff broke the silence. What? Did you forget your darling so quickly? Erica's face fell. Jeff, I'm warning you, she said. If you dare to touch even a hair on Morris's head, I will show you no mercy. Warn me? Jeff raised his eyebrows. You dare speak to me like that? Few people had ever dared to threaten Jeff. Although he was currently in a wheelchair, his lofty and arrogant attitude remained the same. There was something that grew within his bones. Even if he were crushed, he would never change his proud temperament. Give me my son! He's not yours! He's mine! Erica screamed at him. Jeff looked at her silently for a while. His deep black eyes were unfathomable. No one could ever read his thoughts. At last, he said coldly, If you want to keep him alive, then jump off the building right now. What do you mean? You want to kill the mother of your own son? Erica stopped mid-sentence, but it was already too late. Jeff smiled. Still saying he's not mine? You tricked me into that hotel room and gave birth to a child behind my back. All you do is cheat me, and in this world, whoever dares to mess with me will not have a happy ending. Erica couldn't help but swallow her saliva in fear. Erica Thompson and Jeff Nolan confronted each other on the roof of the DX headquarters. Jeff was threatening Erica's life. You have no other choice, he said coldly. You can either jump off the building as an apology and let me vent my anger. After you die, I will consider treating our son well. Otherwise, get ready to collect your little darling's corpse. Jeff didn't look like he was joking. Erica thought he was serious. Director Nolan had a dark reputation. He was ruthless in his killing. He was cold and brutal. Those who offended him never ended well. Jeff and Morris had never interacted before. Jeff probably hadn't developed any feelings for Morris, so it wasn't impossible that he would kill the kid. Furthermore, with his power and wealth, he did not lack women. Perhaps he had already sired several children on countless women in private. Morris was superfluous. Erica knew that there was only one decision she could make. Before she could get up, Jeff took out his cell phone and pressed a button. Morris's wailing voice immediately came out of the speakers.
Don't! Help! Let me go!
Erica immediately stood up, panicking. Don't do it! Please don't hurt my child. I'll jump right now! She backed up to the edge of the building. There was only one gap in the perimeter, where the shield had not been installed. She climbed onto the narrow handrail and tried to stand straight. Below her was the parking lot behind the building. It was pitch black, and she couldn't see anything. The wind blew against her face, ruffling her long hair. She turned around and glared at Jeff, saying, Promise me you will treat our child well. If you dare mistreat Morris, I will haunt you forever. Jeff snorted. As long as you die, I will put aside my hatred. Naturally, I will treat my child better once his wicked mother is gone. Hot tears rolled down Erica's face. Jeff was a real piece of work. It had been a bad idea to provoke him. She still had so many unfulfilled wishes. She had hoped to see Morris become an adult. Who would have thought that all her beautiful dreams would end tonight? Goodbye, Morris, she thought. Mom will look down on you from heaven. She closed her eyes, leaned forward, and fell. After a brief sensation of falling, she heard a dull thud. Erica had fallen onto a huge pane of translucent glass. The impact was so painful that tears ran down her cheeks. What was going on? Erica sat up and rubbed the thick, spotless glass beneath her in astonishment. After that, she foolishly turned her head to look at the handrail. This pane of glass was less than half a meter below the handrail. Such a large pane of glass, yet she hadn't noticed it at all. "Idiot. That's a window," Jeff sneered. He seemed to be enjoying the show, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Erica had an epiphany. She flew into a rage out of embarrassment. Was she being toyed with? For a moment, she felt angry enough to kill. "Die, Jeff, die!" she thought. He had definitely done it on purpose. The glass had been cleaned in advance so that she would mistake it for empty air. With it being night and the nearby lights dim, she had not been able to see the reflection of the glass when she stood high up in the air. Damn it! Erica was trembling with rage. She'd been made to look a fool in front of Jeff. A few black-clothed bodyguards climbed over the handrail and carefully brought her back to the roof. "Miss Thompson, are you all right?" one bodyguard asked. Erica rubbed her bruised forehead miserably. She didn't want to talk to anyone right now. Miss Wilson appeared from the shadows and beckoned to Erica, gesturing for her to take the elevator down. Erica still had no choice. Even if she didn't want to enter, the bodyguards would push her in. There was a long silence as she squeezed into the elevator with Jeff. She kept glancing at his face. This man had a vicious personality, but the most handsome face she had ever seen. Life simply wasn't fair. She couldn't help but look down at his wheelchair. What twist of fate had made him wheelchair-bound?
Hello guys, like and subscribe my channel.